up, everybody? How's everyone doing out there in paradise today? I just want to remind you that I have another channel called Life in Prison with Bad Bob, and I have new videos over there, so go check them out. I'll put the link to the channel in this video description. I hope you're having a great weekend. It's Easter weekend, and hope you all have fun. Got the family over and just enjoying life. And here, Easter is just another day. Nothing special here. They don't give us any special food. It's just another day. And as a matter of fact, I didn't even realize it was Easter until it was either yesterday or the day before when I heard somebody mention it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even noticed. Unfortunately, that's how my days are in here, you know. I don't need a calendar. Really don't even need a clock. You can pretty much judge what time it is just by the activity. And because every day is the same, there's no need to know what day it is or what month it is. And that's really sad, you know? That's what my life's become. But anyway, today I'm going to do a video about robbing the prison pharmacy. That's right, robbing the prison pharmacy. I know that sounds a little crazy, but you'd be surprised. All kinds of robberies take place in here, whether it's breaking in somebody's cell or people going up in somebody's cell and just jacking them straight up. Or, hell, I remember one time back in the day when I used to sell weed, three guys jumped me in the stairwell and tried to rob me. And if they would have picked a different place, they probably would have been successful, but because they chose the stairwell, that worked to my advantage, and I was able to fight them off. But that's a whole nother story. Okay, so let's get into the pharmacy robbery. So we're going back many decades now, okay? This is way back in the day, alright? And back in the day, prison was a whole hell of a lot different. They didn't have the security, they weren't security minded like they are today. Nowadays, security is number one focus. But back then, hell, I remember in the 70s, they would have one police that patrolled 3 different buildings, 3 dormitories. That's right, you might not see the police for 3 hours. You come in, walk through, never mind, I'm getting off base. Okay, so, security was very lax back then, alright? And, like the prison had barbed wire on the top of the fences, no razor wire. Yeah, just barbed wire. It was a maximum security facility. So in order to understand how this could be pulled off, you have to understand the layout of the dormitory. Okay, first of all, the dormitory was shaped in a square with the center cut out and a little courtyard in the center. Okay, and each side was a wing of the dorm. Facing the courtroom, the courtyard, the wall facing was made out of windows. So the police, this front section here was where the police station was. And so they could look at all 3 wings and see inside there from the control room. Okay. And that was actually to our advantage because the windows were big windows that rolled open like that. And they had the diamond-shaped mesh wire over the screens. But you know, you could unscrew that, and usually most of them had half the screws undone. So what used to happen at night, people were beefing with somebody on another wing, and what they would do, police would be asleep in the control room, and they would literally pull the screen off, creep out at ground level, and leave the wing and go over to the other wing and climb through the window and go in there and stab somebody up. You know, that used to happen a lot. But anyway, what happened is a couple of guys who will remain nameless to protect the guilty, they snuck out of the dormitory at night and went all the way across the compound and robbed the pharmacy. So this is how it was done. Those windows that I just described to you, it was a foggy night. And what they did is they climbed out the window, or I should say crawled out the window, and then you could literally reach your hands up and jump and grab the roof in between the wings and climb up on the roof, pull yourself up and climb on the roof. That's what they did. Okay, the cops were probably asleep in the control room, but because it was foggy, the fog drops down in the center of the courtyard and you can't see the wings. So they went out and they climbed up on the roof and jumped down and went over to the maintenance department. Now, another guy had to come from another dormitory all the way on the other side of the yard, which was, let's see, probably 2 football fields away, or maybe a football field and a half, about 150 yards. And that dude had to get out of his dormitory in the same manner, and then meet up in the maintenance department at a specific time. And hey, everything went off without a hitch. Because they didn't have officers out on the yard at night like that or anything. I mean, security was very lax, you know. And in those days, they might have one maintenance supervisor for the entire facility. And he didn't do any work. Okay, you had inmates doing, well, back then we were convicts, okay? The convicts were doing the maintenance work. And they literally roamed the institution with tools without supervision. So let's just say that there was a stopped up toilet in the dormitory. They called maintenance, say, yo, need somebody to come over here and fix this, right? And 1 or 2 inmates would go over there with their tools all by themselves, no cops, and go over there and fix stuff. So it's real easy to get your hands on tools and stuff. But anyway, this night they met up over in the maintenance department and went inside, you know, jimmied the lock, went inside, got all the tools that were necessary, which was only a few things, you know. And then at this particular facility, the pharmacy was on the 2nd floor of the administration building, which was at least 2 football fields, maybe 2.5 football fields away from the maintenance department. And there was a master control room right below the medical department. So you had to go right in front of master control, walk up the steps to go upstairs to where the pharmacy was. And on one side was the hole, and on the other side was the medical department. So they go across the yard, You know, it might not have happened if wouldn't have been foggy, but they go across the yard and they get over there to master control. Hold on, I hear the cops. Alright, that wasn't the cops. I was just hearing voices from other cells echoing down the tier. So anyway, they get to the admin building and they go up the steps and go inside and they go over to the medical department and in those days there wasn't even an officer assigned to medical department. The nurses, doctors, what have you, they're all in there by themselves. But this is the middle of the night, okay? And at nighttime there's only one nurse on duty. That's it. And they usually sleep. And sure enough, they went in there and there was no nurse to be seen. Nurse was in bed asleep. And there was one inmate in the infirmary and that's it. So, this is the crazy thing. The pharmacy door is not even a steel door, okay? It was a wooden door with just a regular old lock on it and a padlock as well, alright? So, jacking the lock was easy. I mean, real easy. Didn't even have to, they took a hammer and everything, didn't even have to use the hammer, okay? They were able to just stick the screwdriver in the door jamb, you know, the little crack in there, and pop it loose. And then take the screwdriver and take the screws. The way the, I don't know what you call it, but they had a hasp on the door to put a padlock on it. And the way this one was situated, on one side the screws were showing, where normally there's 3 or 4 screws there to hold it in. 2 of the screws were showing where you could take those out. So they took the first 2 screws out and then just took the screwdriver and wedged it in there because it's wood and popped it right off. It was easy, real easy to get inside the pharmacy. So they get inside the pharmacy. Now, you know, they didn't have a whole lot of drugs that drug addicts would like, you know, like morphine and stuff like that. Actually, they did have morphine in there, but not large quantities of it. But they had other drugs, mainly pills, and these things called poppers, amyl nitrate, that they used to like. If anybody don't know what amyl nitrate is, you can Google it. Basically, it's something for like somebody's having a heart attack, and that's why they call them poppers. They just put it under their nose and pop it, and when they take the breath, it's like a rush of adrenaline or something. I don't know what you would call it, but man, them things they were something else, and they loved them. And there was just boxes and boxes of those in the refrigerator. But anyway, they go in there and they load up a pillowcase full of all the stuff they're going to take, syringes, all these pills, I mean, that pillowcase was just barely enough room to hold it closed at the top, you know, it was packed with stuff. And so after they get everything, they turn around, they leave, and this is the thing, needed a place to hide the stuff, because we know that there's going to be chaos once they find out all the drugs are missing, you know? So the plan was to go to the library where some of the individuals involved worked and hide the drugs in the library. So they go all the way across the compound, same distance to get to the library, because the library was just adjacent, about 20 yards away from the maintenance department. So they go all the way over to the library and pick the lock on the door. Back then they had these Sony Walkmans with the headphones had a little thin metal strip on it, right? And you could take that metal strip off, split it in two, and make a lockpick set. You know, make a pick and a rake out of it. It was real easy, and it was perfect size too. And so they had that. And they picked the lock on the door to get into the library, went into the library, went to the back section, and they had a push-up roof in there. And I don't know what you call that stuff that hangs down. You push the sections up, put all the drugs up in the roof, right? And then they left the library, went all the way back over to the maintenance department, put all the tools back, and when they left, they went back to their dorms. And that was the hardest part, because by the time they got back to the dorms, this all took a good hour probably to accomplish. And by the time they got back to their dorms, the fog had dissipated. It was still foggy, but it wasn't to the point where you couldn't see your hand in front of you, you know? So they climb up over the roof and drop down in the courtyard. You just gotta pray that the cops can't see you, you know? But they dropped down, then they crawled on the ground because it was not as foggy. And they crawled over to their wing and crawled through the window, put the screen back in it, climbed in their beds, and acted like nothing ever happened. Well, the next morning, all hell broke loose. Back in those days, there was no such thing as a lockdown, okay? Like if somebody got stabbed up and died even, there was no lockdown. You know, they'd send you back to your building for an hour while they clean up the mess, and then it was business as usual. You know? Well, this day, they brought Goon Squad from downtown, we'll say. And they came and they shook down the whole institution. But they were not very bright back then. And they didn't go to the maintenance department, the library, any of those places and shake down. They just went to the dormitories where all the inmates were, because they thought there's no way that, you know, I guess they thought there's no way anything could be in the library or maintenance or anywhere else, you know? Yeah, because everybody's locked down, you know? They had no way to go anywhere. So the Goon Squad goes from dormitory to dormitory, shaking down, and I mean, they demolished stuff back then, you know? All you had was a drawer about this deep, maybe 5 inches, 6 inches deep on your bunk that opened and closed, and you could lock it. That's all your property fit in there, and that's it. And they would literally take that drawer and just dump everything out on the bed or on the floor. And when they left, you might live on this end of the dorm, and it was just like a long hallway with bunks, you know, and your stuff be on this end when they got done. I mean, because they just destroyed everything. And that's what they did. They went through the entire facility, all the dorms, and did that. Didn't find shit. And left. Well, things cooled down a few days later, and next thing you know, the drugs are all over the compound, because the guys working in the library are pimping it, you know? And they were making a lot of money, too. So, a couple weeks goes by, the admin knows that the drugs are out on the yard, but snitching wasn't like it is nowadays, you know? And Um, you know, most prisoners were convicts back then, okay? And, they're not going to tell. And so they didn't, for a while anyway. After maybe 2.5, 3 weeks, I'd say 3 weeks later, somebody, we think we know who did it too, because we're pretty convinced that he worked in the library, because the person that snitched had to know, they had to work in that area because they had to know exactly where the drugs were, which was up in the ceiling in the law library. So the only way they know that is if somebody that worked in the law library snitched, you know. And we always suspected that we knew exactly who it was, just couldn't prove it. But, you know, they came in there one day and snatched everybody up and took us outside and shook down the library. And they went straight to where the drugs were. And back in those days, they didn't have the urinalysis tests that they have today, you know. So what they did is they took everybody to medical and drew blood and sent their blood out to be tested. And anybody that tested positive, they went down for that. They never charged anybody with a street offense like burglary, robbery, or anything like that, because they couldn't prove who actually did it. All they could prove from the blood test is that you were using drugs, and doesn't mean shit, you know, excuse my language. It don't mean nothing. So, I got, you know, I myself, man, I was just a teen back then, and I got tested as well, but I was not a drug addict, you know, so I came up clean. But there was those that went down and they went to confinement for a while, 30, 45 days, maybe 60 days at the most once, because some of them got charges for being under the influence of drugs, and when they went to the hole, you know, they did, back then you did, the least you could go to the hole for was 30 days. You know, I think the most was 90 days or 180, I can't remember. I don't think they did 180. I think it was just 90 days was the max on isolation. And so that's how it went down, you know. No one got a street charge or anything, and things were back to business as usual. So there you have it. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to comment and share the video. I do my best to answer every comment, and if you have other questions that you'd like to ask, the email is in the video description. Also, don't forget to check out my other channel, Life in Prison with Bad Bob. I will put a link to that channel in the description. For those of you that are not aware of that channel, there's 6 or 7, maybe 8 videos on there that you haven't seen. So check that out, you might like it. And I hope you all have a wonderful Easter weekend. Be safe out there. Enjoy life to the fullest. And always remember, just say no to drugs and crime, or you will wake up like me one morning in a cage of steel doing time. Good night, everybody.